this podcast is not even about females in food. It's not even about me. It's about you. It's about the women and the allies who are making it happen every single day.
Welcome to Women Who Make It, real conversations with women in the food and beverage industry who are building careers, leading teams, and figuring it all out. After years of building females in food, I've had conversations with some of the most brilliant women in the industry, and they shared the real stuff. The pivots, the boundaries, the burnouts, and the moments of, is this even working, before it finally clicked. So I hit record, and now you get to hear it too. We're Women Who Make It, so let's dig in.
Food is everywhere. It shapes our culture, our families, our health, and our future. But behind every innovation and every bite that we take, there's a person's story. And too often, the women behind those stories aren't the ones getting heard. That's what made me stop and ask, what if we could change that? Well, welcome to Women Who Make It, a Females in Food podcast, and I'm Angela Dodd, the host of this show, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Females in Food. And this show is about the women and allies who are shaping the future of food. And for this very first episode, you get to hear from just me and what I've made, why it matters, and what you can expect from the incredible conversations to come. Now, you probably have never heard of me, and you may have never heard of Females in Food. So to begin this story about this journey, let's back it up to 2019. But really, the seed was planted long before Females in Food was ever founded in 2019. I have been in the industry for 2 decades and started my career as a food scientist and then turned into a sales leader. And I realized over the course of my career how isolating it can feel to be the only or one of the few women in the room. And I wanted to build something bigger, a network, a community of movement to solve a problem that I was seeing. And that's our industry sectors, and especially the women in the various industry sectors, really had no place to come together, to talk, to collaborate, to help open doors, solve challenges. And so in 2019, I put pen to paper and started to solve for this problem. And I thought, what would the industry look like if women had a space to come and crowdsource their biggest questions, their business challenges, ask for a contact or an introduction, and that these women would represent every single one of our industry sectors and every function. And with that breadth and depth of the industry, along with the intention that people will show up and help one another, think of how much we could do. Think of how quickly we could do it. But then to compound it, if we gave the women the resources, the leadership development to empower their own careers, then how that could change what our industry really looked like. We know that 80% of food buying decisions are made by women, but we're represented in our industry by less than 20% in the C-suite. And so ultimately, that is what I set out to change. And so what is Females in Food today? Today, we are the first and only industry-wide community for women and allies across the food and beverage value chain. We've grown into a platform that connects, develops, and elevates women through our events, mentorship, data insights, and partnerships with some of the biggest companies in the industry. Now, let's put that into numbers. Let's say we have over 2,500 women across the globe that are a part of our talent network. We reach over 20,000 people monthly through our digital reach. We host over 50 events annually through our virtual and in-person. We have an annual summit, and we share the stories of hundreds of women every single year. But we also work with employers who want to increase their employer brand, who want to attract more female talent, who want to retain and advance them. We work with partners across the industry who share that mission by both through employer branding initiatives and through talent recruitment solutions. And we live by this philosophy that your network is your net worth. And we have seen so much impact. I'm talking millions of dollars every year in new business opportunities, new jobs, raises, opportunities that would have been missed had these connections never been made. So we're really proud of the work that we've done over the past 6 years. But here's the thing. We're not done. We're still growing. And this podcast is not even about females in food. It's not even about me. It's about you. It's about the women and the allies who are making it happen every single day. And that is why I am so excited to be here with you today. So, before I start inviting guests on and you start learning things about this industry, career journeys, the ups, the downs, the messy middle, I thought we could start with some insights from me. And because I believe time is our most precious and finite resource, I promise you to keep these episodes short, 30 minutes. That's our attention span. If it's super interesting, maybe we'll go to 45. But for this first episode, unless it's my toddler asking me 20 questions, I'll keep it to 5. I have a really great production company who has helped me along with a team, and they have helped brainstorm 5 fairly interesting questions that I will go through here with you so that you can hear my hot take on what's happening in the industry and all the things that I'm seeing and hearing. So, the first question, what are the trends I'm seeing, both in talent and in the industry? The first one is that women are leaving the workforce. I don't know if you've heard this yet, but women are leaving in droves, and I'm seeing that and hearing that in a lot of conversations. I think women are feeling the burnout, the lack of support, and barriers to advancement. We also have this supported through the data that we just got back and put out in our first State of Women in the Industry report. We'll link it in the show notes for you to download if you have interest in reading it. But the data is showing that women are leaving the workforce, and we're seeing that. I'm hearing that. But on the flip side, while there is a lot of reasons why women are leaving, I also see a rise of fractional experts. I see a lot of women who are leaving their W-2 day jobs kind of 10 years early because they have this expertise and they're seeing an opportunity to go out and do consulting and fractional work as CMOs, CSOs, innovation leads, et cetera. They're running their own companies. They're increasing their flexibility. And I think we're going to continue to see that. There is some hurdles in that situation, though. I think anytime a woman thinks or any person thinks about leaving a day job to go and be a fractional expert consultant, you have to consider the business development time it takes to do that. And I see so many people underestimate how hard it is to do business development when you're a consultant. I think the average amount of time to get your company from, you leave your job and you build up a steady base of business is like a year. And it's like a year of networking and putting yourself out there and letting people know what value you can deliver for them before you'll see a really steady stream of business. So that's an area that I'm seeing a lot of people talk about, a lot of people do. And small bit of insight, if you are considering that, just allow yourself some time to do that business development. Question 2. Let's take it to a fun question. This is the food and beverage industry anyways. Get to know me a little bit here. What is my favorite beverage? I will share with you that I love wine, coffee, and tea. And I probably should drink a lot more water. I was told that recently, like half my body weight. I'm not capable of that every day. But a fun antidote story here. Before I was happily married and when I was still a single lady, I would tell my friends and family, whoever I date needs to drink wine, coffee, or tea. We're in the food and beverage industry. If you're in this industry, I think you can relate to food and beverages bring us together, and they're conversational beverages, they're social beverages, and I really love that. I have my tea right here in my cup actually. So if you find me out and about or sitting at my desk, I am that person who has, 6 cups of beverages sitting around her. Some of them might be a day old at all points in time. In fact, I have 3 sitting here right now and 2 are empty. um, so yeah, fun antidote. Now happily married, my husband drinks all 3 of them. So lucky for me, but those are my favorite beverages. I do enjoy unsweetened tea. I like a good cup of coffee. I do love a really nice glass of wine, and I don't drink soda. That's a fun fact about me, but I do really like sparkling water. So if you're anything like me, bring the joy on with a nice hot cup of tea and a good movie, and I'll be your friend there on the couch. Moving on to the next question. What has surprised me about working with so many women in the industry through Females in Food? This is kind of a hard one. The thing that surprised me the most in the number of women who I've spoken with and worked with over the years is how hard it is to pull their achievements out of them, to get them to talk about their achievements, to get them to share about it. And as I reflected on this, I think it's for a few reasons. As we climb up the corporate ladder, I am guilty of this. And that was another big reason for Females in Food and why I started it is as we climb the corporate ladder, we get busier and busier in our lives. Some of us choose parenthood or parenthood chooses us, or you get competing priorities and get involved in your community, whatever it is. We get busy, right? Everybody is busy. And as women, it's our network that is truly the first thing to go. It's the thing that we start giving up. We don't make time to connect with other women. And so if you're not even making time for that, nonetheless, getting an extra some vegetables and a walk in and all your water in a day, we certainly aren't sitting down and writing out our achievements. We're coming into Q4, so if you haven't started reflecting on your achievements to talk about it with your manager here in January, that's my tidbit to share. You should start thinking about that. But in general, as I have met and spoken with women, we're the last ones to talk about our achievements. And I see it as the greatest challenge and opportunity for the work that we're doing is that how wonderful is it that we have this platform that we can amplify all these women's achievements in the industry and share those stories. But, it has been a challenge and something that has been so surprising to me that it's hard to get women to talk about themselves. It's hard for me to get them to raise their hand to say, look at me, look what I achieved. So we have a few tricks in our different events and within our community platform to work in opportunities to help that feel more natural and to start pulling that out of women. Because I think it's so important for us to raise our hand and say, look what I did and help people see not just what you're achieving, but also what you can do to add value to maybe whatever project they're working on. So that's my insights there. Next question. What's the most underrated leadership skill that I see in the industry? I think this is a really good question. I would say it's empathy. I think it's misunderstood because I don't think it's soft, but I think a lot of people see it as a soft skill and not strategic. But I think some of the best leaders and the most effective leaders understand how to balance tough decisions with empathy. And what this personally means for me and how it showed up over the past 20 years is having those managers who can show up and recognize that you have a life. You have things that are important to you outside of this job, that you're going to create the most engaged, loyal, and creative people if you give them the space and understanding that there is other factors that are influencing them outside of this job and having that empathy, or maybe they failed at something and having the empathy and understanding and supporting them through to, help them see the lesson and come through it without punishment, right? And so some of the best leaders that I've had and where I find myself to be the most loyal employee and where I see the most loyal employees is where women and men are with leaders and companies who show empathy as a core leadership principle and who practice that daily. I think that's the other part. I think you can have really great values written down on a company charter, but to practice that daily and to have it show up of, hey, I'm 5 minutes late to this meeting because my toddler needed some extra hugs. We had a really tough morning. And for me to be able to show up and actually say that, and for somebody to have empathy and kindness on the other line to not hold that against me, I think that's what it looks like in daily action. And maybe this is the daily reminder to show up with a little bit of extra compassion, empathy, and kindness, because we all have a lot going on. We all have competing priorities and we all have a life. And your job is part of your life, but it's not your whole life. And I think great leaders understand that. All right. I think this is question 5. If I could improve anything about this industry, what would it be? Well, I've seen a lot of change over 2 decades in this industry. And in the last 12 months, I think we've seen a rapid fire amount of change, and we will continue to see that. But one thing that I would change and something that we continue to work towards at Females in Food is how to make information even more accessible. I think whether it's market trends, funding opportunities, data, a lot of the really large companies have access to this and it's a great benefit, right? But for smaller companies who maybe can't invest in those ways or individuals coming into this industry, I think there's a big need for consolidated information, access to information, how to navigate this industry. If you've been in this industry, you know that it's like a small community in the largest global industry. And we all understand how it works, how the wheels turn and how things get done. But if you haven't those learned experiences over time, a lot of that experience is leaving the industry. And I think we're going to see a big need for teaching people very quickly how our industry works. And so it's one thing I would change, but it's also something that we're actively working on in FIF is what toolkits can we continue to roll out? How can we help inform and educate and connect people to the information and resources quickly so that they can accomplish their goals? And as a whole, we just get better as an industry. So that's one thing I would change. So, as we wrap up, I said I would make these episodes short and sweet. That's a taste of what you'll hear here in this podcast. Real talk about what it takes to build, lead, and keep moving forward in the food and beverage industry. Now, next time, I am being joined by a very special guest. I'm not going to share her name yet, but we will be diving into her journey of how she has made it. And when I say made it, I'm talking not just making some of the most iconic products for the most iconic brands globally, but how she has made it to an executive role in an R&D function at this company. And so tune in next time to listen to my guest who will share her journey and all my guests coming up. We have an incredible lineup of individuals who are going to be sharing their stories, insights, and experiences. But first, subscribe, share, and visit femalesinfood.community if you want to learn more about our work, or if you want to download our State of Women in the Industry report. That can also be found on our website or in the show notes below. But this is where we'll begin in every episode. I'll be sitting down with women across from me to hear their industry stories, their lessons learned, all through the lens of some very simple but good questions. I believe the art of asking a good question will lead you to getting some really great insight from those individuals. And I encourage all of our listeners, think about the questions that you're asking and, how can you bring stories to the table? How can you learn more about people? How can you show up with kindness and compassion? So if you like today's episode and want to follow along, we would love to have you along for the journey. Tell a friend, share it with a friend, go for a walk with a friend and listen to this podcast. We would love it. Stay tuned. We'll be announcing our next guest soon, but thank you for being here. This has been a journey over the past 6 years, and I'm so grateful for the community and audience that we've built because it now affords us the opportunity to share the incredible women and their stories with you and help elevate their thought leadership within this industry. So with that, I will bid you farewell and see you next time.